we'll send out more information. Thank you.
All right, it's that time. Town of Green Mountain Falls Board of Trustees regular meeting will come to order. Today is Tuesday, March 15th, and the time is 7 o'clock. All trustees are here except for Trustee Quinn and Trustee Guthrie, and I anticipate she'll be arriving soon. At this time, if you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda as presented? All right, seeing none, I'd move to approve.
I'll second.
If there is no further discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
And that passes. Item 3 is the consent agenda, which is the accounts payable from February 22nd to March 11th, and the minutes from March 1st Board of Trustees meeting. Does anyone on the board want to bring out an item for discussion?
I'll move to approve.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Item 4, amendment to Stilling Basins contract. Becky, do you want to walk us through that quickly, please?
Sure. So this was not actually, yes, this was, I don't know if this is actually Stilling Basins, but this was the contract that you have with Wilson and Company prior to my arrival that allows him to prepare the RFP for the Stilling Basins project. The letter is included in your packet and explains the need for the change from Mr. Braken and Wilson and Company. There were some relocations of water lines necessary to complete the Stilling Basins project, and this expense, I am told and confirmed with CSU, is reimbursable. So once this occurs, we will pay Andre and then utilize that information to generate invoices to CSU.
All right, board, any questions? I think it makes perfect sense, and I always like when we can get reimbursed from someone else. I would move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, no further discussion. All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. We are moving right along. Resolution 2022-05, which is an amendment to the Employee Handbook PTO payout. You did see in your packet that this is not unusual to be amending the Employee Handbook, and I will give you a little background as to why this had previously said there wasn't any payout. It was from when employees were allowed to bank just all their hours from anything, and we would just pay it out. And it was put in there was no payout because there was no stop to it. Now, however, in the handbook, they can only accrue so many hours. And my personal feeling is they haven't used it. It's really hard for any of our employees to take a whole lot of time off, but especially in the marshal's position when he had no one to back him up. So I would agree with this proposed idea to amend that so that they can have PTO payout. So that's up for discussion.
Okay, so I'm on the page, it's on page 25. And is this something that's been added or has it been modified? What do we know?
Is literally just a modification in the memo that I put together for you.
Is that at the end? I think, or was it at the beginning? Did I shoot past it at the beginning?
I didn't open it.
Was it at the beginning? Okay, because I read through that
So on
once, but I should,
Page 9.
yes.
On page 12 of the employee
Okay,
handbook.
upon separation, okay. So we don't have a use it or lose it policy, is my conclusion here, is that correct?
Well, we do in that they reach a maximum
Right,
accrual,
right,
but
right. But it's like the beginning of the calendar year, the beginning of whatever quarter you start, it's like if you haven't used it, you don't have to like take time off or cash it out.
Because it's accrued each pay period, it'll just be something that we'll have to watch, but any time that an employee goes over that, what they're able to acquire for 1 year, it'll automatically default back to, well, not automatically, it'll automatically default Nate to set it back to their maximum accrual.
good job, Nate.
Okay,
It'll just be.
so it's
technical.
use it or lose it after the maximum amount.
Exactly.
Now, are they allowed to just cash it out without taking time off?
Not
Okay.
According to our handbook.
So, okay. Okay. So, and I think that's just policy that is individual by company,
Right.
so.
Are you paid bi-weekly? It says bi-weekly, but are you paid on a specific day? Like every other Friday?
Every other Friday.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I have a suggestion on page 8. I'm sorry, page 9, where can you hear me?
Are you talking about the handbook itself
The
or
handbook
the,
itself,
okay.
I caught this and thought it would be worth mentioning, about the first, or the second sentence on the top of page 9, where it says this section of the handbook applies to non-exempt employees under the FLSA. For government employees, it's not non-exempt or exempt. It's an employee of a public agency.
Okay,
So you need to get rid of the word non-exempt.
perfect.
And then the other question is
I don't see that on page 9, Cindy.
I'm referring to page 9 of the handbook.
So it's
Yes.
page 23.
Yeah, that's what page I'm on.
Yeah, at the very top.
Oh, at the top?
Yeah. So right there.
Oh, okay, I do, thank you.
On page 11 of the handbook, paid time off benefits. Is that defined as vacation or sick leave, or is it just paid time?
I believe at your last revision of your handbook, you had moved away from it being separated and it just being one bank of PTO that includes both vacation and sick leave.
I see. So I would like to clarify that, because in a final employee's paycheck, vacation accrued but unused can be paid, not sick leave.
Because we don't separate it out.
and is that, what rule are you referencing or what?
Oh, that's under the FLSA.
Okay.
So is it time to split it?
We'd had it split for a lot of years, and then we were advised to move to PTO. So this is territory I don't know what to do with, because we were advised to go with PTO and use it as both.
I see.
So would the interpretation be, and is this maybe something we talk to employers council over? Would that be the place to check?
On how to reword
As
it.
far as, right now it says paid time off is a benefit that may be used for any purpose. So because of that, at an employee's end of their tenure, would they be eligible for whatever accrual they've made up to that point?
But for that situation, it would need to be separated.
Yeah.
So what I would advise, because we're moving rapidly towards the time when an employee is going to want to use this, I would say I'd like to see the manager talk to employers council about that. Make sure we're on the right path. And if this is all fine with them and fine with us, I would like to move that we approve the resolution as presented. And then we can make this happen.
Certainly, and I know that there's probably going to be other revisions of the handbook that need to occur. We probably need to look at it in depth.
We often do.
Yeah. So, being able to fix this one issue allows us to move forward with succession planning.
So your motion is to approve pending employer council review.
Review in there.
And if
Approval
not,
to it.
bring back, if they say no, we have to do it differently.
Yeah, bring it. If we have to do it differently, we'll bring it back to the next meeting.
But if employers council confirms that this is okay to do the way that this is written here, then, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. What do you think?
It's fine.
Yeah,
All right, so that's a motion. Was that a second?
yes, that's a second.
All right.
Clarification.
All right, all those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Now motion passes. All right, item 6 is volunteer application for the PRT committee, Ron Gans.
And is he here? He's not here.
When did Mr. Gans present this to the PRT?
I believe it was their last meeting. Let's see what the application itself was from February 17th. And let me check something.
32 on the memo.
Okay. Does Mr. Gans understand that it's Parks, Recs, and Trails, and it's not what used to be known as the Trails Committee?
Yeah, I have a concern about that as well. I wish he was here so that we could question that.
Because
Because
it's not the same program.
And I'd like to know more from him because it seems like everything here is focused on trails, but that's an ancillary, if that's the right word, sorry, to the entire board. It's not focused on trails. It's parks, recs, and rec and trails. It's like, it has to all work together. And we want to make sure that we don't lose focus of that.
Nancy, you're going to reinforce that.
We had that discussion.
Oh, good.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
So should we ask for a revision application or should we ask for him to clarify his vision? Or is the PRT aware of what his vision is for the volunteer position?
Yes.
So we're really looking more at his architectural background to help with future planning of the parks.
Okay,
So that's what is more of what we were thinking he would be a really great asset for, is to help with some master planning of the parks.
and have you had that conversation with him?
Yes.
And he's aware that it's not just trails?
Yes, he was the
Okay.
one that helped Dawn with the fishing.
Yeah.
pier.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And may I suggest that when you turn these papers in, that it reflect the proper name so that we don't have to have this discussion.
yeah, yeah.
All right, anything further?
Yeah.
Can we make a motion?
Okay, so I will move to approve this volunteer application based on the applicant's, sorry, my brain is not done, qualifications and based on the recommendation from PRT and their clarifying that is not just a Trails Committee position with him.
All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, volunteer application for the Fire Mitigation Committee, Ms. Kelly Hunter. We did discuss this last meeting, but now we have her application in front of us. Does anyone have any questions about this? I would move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor vote by saying aye.
I
That motion passes. Look at what Catherine's missing,
know, right?
right?
And I love the part about her being the retreat coordinator, because her and I did that together. So,
Look at you.
yes, we coordinated lots.
So you know. All right, reports, trustee reports. Margaret?
I don't have a report. I do have a question though. And this hopefully will come up. I didn't see it addressed anywhere in here. I'm questioning the pool opening timeline, if we could get an update on that, since there's a little bit of rumbling starting about the pool.
Certainly.
So,
So the pool is, we did go down and kind of take a look at it from several different perspectives. One of the questions that came up was, could it be opened up or modified to be a year-round restroom? That's still up in the air. It sounds like the septic system might not be able to handle it. But then also looking at the condition of the well that's there. Probably what we need to do is get a pumper truck to come in and pump out the well, see what kind of repairs actually need to occur. But we did go down, Kyle and I, along with Dawn from the PRT, last week to kind of give a high-level overview, looking over to see what needs to happen. We did notice a couple of maintenance things that need to be taken care of, and Public Works is addressing those. But then our next steps really are to do a pre-operational meeting with the pool company, and they'll come in and do an inspection too, with enough time for us to be able to make additional repairs if they identify any. And then from there, they'll begin a hiring process of getting folks. We did look at getting Wi-Fi installed down there with Flare, and they have some suggestions on some minimal equipment that we will need that will be able to help us not only have the Wi-Fi there, but allow a self-service kiosk. So that is in progress. It just comes down to now ordering equipment and getting moving forward. So once we identify what the well needs are, we'll be able to determine what source of water we'll be filling it from.
Okay. We did used to work with a pool maintenance guy out of Woodland. So if the pool company goes down and looks at that filter and that boiler and goes, not us, I'm sure his name is still in the records and he knew all about how to get that all working. So that's very helpful, and it was reasonable and he knew what we needed. As far as having that restroom year round, the one thing we found to be a huge no was there was no way to secure those bathrooms from the pool or from the interior of the pool house itself. So I think there would have to be, besides the septic, the work that would have to be done to secure those would just be pretty cost prohibitive. Anyway, that's what I see with that. Cindy, do you have a report?
I do not, thank you.
All right. Let's move to committee reports. Nate, do you have anything?
Did not receive any official reports, but I can comment on fire mitigation briefly. We're having an initial meeting with a week from today with the Mile High Youth Corps crew manager, basically myself, David Douglas, and I don't know if anyone else, but we're gonna meet initially just to go over the project priority areas, and there is an opportunity to modify scope if we get out there and they say, oh, there's no way we can do this, what you want to do in 12 weeks or whatever. We can talk about modifying the timeline if we need to. That is a deadline of the 24th, so we'll be meeting on the 22nd.
And I read somewhere that we got approval for that grant, is that correct?
Yes,
Was
I'm
it for
sorry
the
if you
full
didn't.
amount that
It was for the full
requested?
12 weeks, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. And so that's exciting. And so, yeah, so we're, that initial kickoff meeting will determine and validate our plan. The one comment from the state was that we need to, oh, that's the other person that's meeting with us, sorry, state forester is gonna be with us, because the grant administrators highly suggested that we consult with a forester to make sure the prescription that we wrote in the grant is strong enough to satisfy fuel mitigation goals. So we'll all put our heads together, rely highly on CJ from Mile High Youth Corps for the crew time work situation, and then the forester to make sure that what we want to do is a strong enough mitigation practice for that. And then we'll, I guess, finalize the timeline and move forward. So one thing we want to do is, and a couple of the fire mitigation people met about this, committee people, and along with others along Mountain Avenue, but just to try to get potential egress and ingress routes through people's property to get up to that area, because obviously going around from either side is the very long way. So we're gonna look at areas along Mountain Avenue that can be helpful for that, to make the work hopefully more efficient. So we'll talk about all that and then contact property owners and get agreements in place where they need to be and all that. So that's in progress. Planning, we're still kind of waiting on the final draft from Nina, the consultant on the land use code rewrite. So we don't know if our hypothetical timeline will still be intact, but we're hopeful of that. And Todd, did you have anything to add on Planning Commission?
Well, other than what's in your report, Nate's pretty much covered most everything in his written report. We are targeting a work session on the 28th, assuming that we get the updated code in. And then we're also, if that happens, we're targeting a public hearing on the 12th.
At Planning Commission.
Yeah.
And that's about it for committee reports off the top of my head.
Perfect. Perfect. Nancy, did you have anything to add from PRT? Because you're here and all. All right. Becky?
Staff report.
Yeah, we'll start you staff report. We'll circle back to Nate in case there's more.
Thank you. So just a couple of highlights from my written report to you all. We did have our pre-proposal meeting for the CDBG project earlier in the week. Thanks to everybody that helped with that. We do close on that project. The bid closing will occur tomorrow at 5 p.m. And hopeful to have some really good, strong proposals come in. The RFP, or the bid opening for the comprehensive roads plan, did occur as well. Last week, we did have one respondent to that, but it does meet the project goals. So between those two projects coming in and being done, and we'll get those contracts to legal review for before they come to you. Have a question for you all. Would you like to do a work session prior to the next meeting to kind of go over those projects and those bid awards prior to awarding those contracts?
I'm okay if needed.
Just,
I mean,
I'm not burning up to do it. If you needed us,
Okay.
it'd be fine.
No,
But
your discretion, I think.
okay. I think they're both
Yeah.
really cut and dry. You're familiar with, well familiar with all the projects. So I feel comfortable moving ahead there. That will allow a little bit of time for the awardees' legal review of those contracts as well. In addition to that, working on the agenda for the board orientation for the new board members, have some tentative dates, but need to finalize a couple of other folks' ability to attend those. So looking forward to that as well. And then, one little thing that didn't get mentioned on the PRT committee is that we were able to reach out to our regional representative from Great Outdoors Colorado. They are willing to come and visit with the PRT at their next meeting and give them an overview of their granting programs, to include planning grants, which hopefully, if the stars align, we can move forward and apply for a planning grant to complete a Parks and Rec master plan. And I think that plan there will really help to identify some of those creative solutions needed to have a robust plan
That's
moving
nice.
forward.
Is PRT meeting in person again? Or do they still just meet online? Because we want to make sure that we don't inconvenience our state representative.
He's out of Colorado Springs,
Okay,
so he's not having to go far, and he's eager to come.
okay. So I would suggest maybe suggesting that it's an in-person meeting. So
I'm just the secretary.
Today you're
I
the
know.
representative. So.
you're the official representative.
Not the mayor's wife or anything. That has nothing to do with it.
I'll make that recommendation in some of our
And
communication.
especially if he's local and he's willing to be here, and I think you can get so much more accomplished in person.
Well, it's such a great introduction to the town and all the people that you'd be working with
Yes.
Throughout this project.
And just seeing where we are and what we do. And
I think that's very exciting and good for the committee.
I am too. I'm really, really happy about that. Other than that, it's just been, continuing to move forward on projects that we have going on. Do you have any questions for me, or is there anything burning that I missed?
No, I think things look really good.
yeah. And are we close to finalizing the parking management, because we had recommended starting it sooner this year?
Absolutely. I have had some preliminary conversations with them. There were some concerns that were brought up in talking to our representative there. So we are working through those, but have another meeting request out, waiting to hear back.
Okay.
I'll keep you apprised.
Great. Nate, back to you.
All right, yeah, so a little summary of what's going on. Not a whole lot of exciting things in the clerk treasurer world, other than we are getting ready for audit, so starting to gather documents for that. Brian is very helpful with that because he went through it last year, and so he's a great help with that, particularly as I continue to have a lot of planning stuff going on. And then we're also going to meet with Kyle Logan of the auditor just before the audit, and kind of a separate non-audit meeting, just an overall budget meeting, just to help the four of us kind of put our heads together and help really comprehensively understand the budget and different funding rules and things like that, just to
I've had
make
my
sure.
audit in progress sign up since the middle of January.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, so we're getting ready for that. And then likely we may have to present an amended 2022 budget, just based on some discrepancies, some misunderstandings perhaps, as that was put together at the end of last year. And so, but we'll do what we need to do there. And grant wise, obviously mentioned the co-swap grant, which will be, I'll be the project manager for that, obviously. And so that'll be getting started. I am also finally have access to the state sites for grant reporting and reimbursement requests. So catching up, or starting to catch up on the land use code timeline, and just because no reports have been submitted to this point, and there's a deadline of that grant in July, I believe, or June, but hopefully we'll meet that deadline. There is an extension possibility, but in either case, I just need to catch up on that documentation. Mentioned the co-swap stuff already. Planning, this is the short-term rental summary. The 11190 Hondo Ave is in the comment period right now, but will not be approved until after we verify with Pikes Peak Regional that the stuff that they're doing right now, mainly the deck, has been inspected and finalized and all that. 10650 Hondo, that's, if you remember, that's the house that the previous owners purchased, that town property, the parcel next to it. So all that paperwork is finally gone through, but the new owners are plan to apply for a short-term rental at that spot, of course. So, and then recently approved, I had the 6855 Howard and 11065 Falls Avenue. And then I did, so the numbers here were basically at 46 out of the 60. I think I presented about that same number or slightly higher before, but I continue to audit kind of the lists and compare between Munirevs and the records that were outside of Munirevs. So I think 46 is a pretty accurate number at this point. And I also feel that it's not specified, well, code talks about STR licensing being in residential areas as opposed to business areas. And so I don't feel that, properties that are zoned business should count against that 60, despite the fact that they also advertise, on short-term sites. So that's that new number.
Because when I read in this that the business zone was removed, we still get the lodging tax from the hotels too, though, right?
Yeah, that's just, they go through the same process.
They go through the same process.
They pay the same fee, the lodging tax.
Right.
That's just for the count, how many, when are we gonna hit that 60 limit?
Do we know how many were removed from the list before? Do you know just off the top of your head? If not, don't worry about it.
Well, there's the Green Mountain Falls Lodge, Outlook Lodge, Little Beaver Inn, and Lakeside Cottages are
Were
all.
they counted? Yeah, never mind. I just answered.
Yeah, I think some or all were counted in that total before. So
okay.
I basically removed everything that's zoned business
Because it makes me wonder
from the count.
if our cap is adequate or if it's too high.
When we did the cap, we did it on a percentage basis.
Okay.
So it's roughly 600 dwellings, we did 10%.
10%. Okay.
So it was just a number of it,
Okay.
because we didn't think we'd ever hit 60, and now I think maybe we will.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's the ongoing STR process. We also added so the code says that the initial licensing fee should be prorated by month after January 1st, but Munirevs did not handle that. And so there may be some adjustments that need to be made, but we are paying for Munirevs to create that ability in the software. So that will be taking place soon. But I may have to revisit some of the initial payments perhaps that occurred for the initial license, and then everything renews calendar year. But anyway, so there was a discrepancy in the code versus how Munirevs was actually operating. So
Ask them if they want to give what is the over to it as a donation to the town. It would be a tax deduction.
Oh, well, we could do that. So I'll have to follow up on that. The recent applications here, we know about the firehouse that had the variances approved, so that's moving forward. We had a special meeting about a stucco siding for planning commission last week. There's a person that didn't realize she did everything correct through Pikes Peak Regional, but it was the type of project that didn't get caught by them to be on our radar. So anyway, the planning commission scrambled and agreed to have a special meeting for her for that application so that she could continue with the new siding in the middle of winter undisturbed. So that happened last week. And then of course the deck at Hondo that we mentioned briefly. Another thing, the Clerestory preservation project, which I included this form here, but this is an initiative that's being paid for. It's a private project by the Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation, but they did approach Planning Commission just to make us aware of it with the goal of, or the question for us as a town to think about any other data points or information that anyone thinks might be valuable to the town or for future planning purposes. It's basically a historic snapshot of the town, and so there are going to be people going around with clipboards and things, so they basically asked us if we wanted any input to that project. So you can think about that and let me know, or Jesse know, if there's any ideas that you have about that. We will post some information on the website and Facebook about it, just so that people are aware and not coming out up in arms.
And what's the goal and outcome?
It's for the Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation. So it's basically a snapshot in time of the town, and to be used perhaps in historic literature or publications or whatever the Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation wants to do. Todd, did you have
It was mentioned that during our meeting that they may be wanting to write a book about life in Green Mountain Falls around this time frame.
In 2020, featuring us.
probably added to different information of different time frames, from other historical sources. So anyway, so take a look at that form further, and if anyone has any ideas, let me know, or Jesse Stroop know, and they can gather some data. The unfortunate tragic fire that happened, we did receive a complaint from that, about that building, just maybe as, a hazardous situation. I did reach out to Pikes Peak Regional. I had never dealt with anything like that, but apparently there's a process for following up on that. And if they deem it to be a hazardous situation, then the town may have to have some responsibility to follow up with the property owners on that. So just getting started on that, figuring out what we may have to do or not do on that. So, and then code updates, we mentioned briefly. The ideal would be to have a final draft and public hearing and all that at one of the May meetings, preferably the early May meeting, but if not, perhaps that second May meeting. Even if it's in June, we'd still be in that time frame of the grant deadline. So I think we have some cushion there, which is good. And we've been working with Municode, the code updates that you approved late last year. Those are on schedule to be published in May. They're finalizing the formatting and the how it's laid out and everything. We received a draft of that and recently approved it. Basically, what's going to happen though with the land use code, that's going to be considered a supplement to the publication of the new code. And if we only have one supplement, we don't get charged more. But if we have them publish the current land use chapters and then we have them change them later, then that would be an additional cost. So probably what will happen is they will publish the bulk of the code that you all approved, and then the land use code will just kind of have a temporary placeholder saying contact me, contact the clerk for any questions, but it'll be published whenever. And so that'll just exist for a month or two, or however long it takes then to publish the newly approved land use code. So there'll be a little bit of a transition there with that online code. One other thing I want to mention, I keep forgetting, my alma mater, Augustana College, I was a geography major, and my good friend of mine is now a geography professor there. And they have volunteered to come to the town and basically do a free aerial survey of the town. So over kind of a bad timing a little bit, but over Memorial Day weekend, they're going to be here and flying the town with drones. And out of that, we will have some very high resolution and accurate aerial photos, contours, basically a full 3D model of the town. So, so we will figure out what documentation we need as far as agreements and liability stuff and all that. But that'll be really cool.
Make sure we don't have a no-fly zone.
Yeah, no, we don't. But anyway, that'll be really cool, and that'll give us some really awesome data to use in our GIS system and all that. So I'm pretty excited about that, and also we'll publicize that so people don't freak out about drones flying around everywhere. So, and that's it. Sorry for the long-winded report, but
No, very,
lots going on.
very
I
informative.
would like to be included in the meeting with Kyle Logan,
Okay,
if that's agreeable.
sure. I don't see
Just
why not.
need to know when.
Okay, sounds good.
And also, this was probably the third house fire in the last 10 years. So have you discussed that with Chief Steve?
No,
On how
I have
the
not.
other two were
I don't know
handled?
if anyone else.
Yes. Yes, preliminarily, but it'll end up, most likely what we'll have to do is go through a dangerous building abatement process. We have not yet reached out to the daughter of the lady who passed away. She, as I understand, is now the owner of the property. And there's a process to go through. I just wanted to make sure that when we do it, it's done compassionately.
Thank you.
All right, Marshall's report.
Marshall's report is up here from February, and that's about all I've got.
All right, I did just want to mention that budget revisions and budget amendments are never a cause for alarm. That's pretty much a standard operating procedure in government budgets in particular, and that's fine. And really nothing further than that. So item 9 is correspondence, and item 10 is for persons present who are not on the agenda. So if you have something you would like to say, anyone here tonight? Todd.
One item, when they do the drones, make sure they coordinate with the local flight standards district office, because there are FAA requirements. Airspace is owned by the federal government. It's not owned by local property owners, so they may need to understand that.
Yeah, they are. I actually have my UAS license, and
Okay.
so does the professor that's guiding the group. And so, yeah, he's very knowledgeable about all that, but thank you for the reminder. Yeah.
Just make sure you coordinate.
There's a lot of low-flying helicopters around here, so.
That's one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see, so I think we've covered about everything. If there's nothing further, this meeting is adjourned at 7:44. Not a record, but a short one.
Yeah. Yeah. For the grants and stuff. Okay.
And I thought you were sitting on your
Yeah.
board.
We got the grant. I just- Yeah, I'm a project manager.
I'm like,
Really good.
I know, right?
Okay.
My eldest went-
You're
he
in.
was-
Okay, cool.
He was a real
Let me know if you have any follow-up.
Okay, yeah.
Did you?
He was like, so,
So great. I mean, that's right.
Yeah, really.
That's great.
So great. That part. My mom.
If it was today, no, I was taking my husband.